So after a diabolical loss last week, Carlton needed to make some changes. And boy, oh boy, did Vossy make some changes. Changes that aided Carlton in getting a much needed victory. Take a listen.
I felt like our group played a really good team. Brand of football today, there's a really good spread of performance across the group. Certainly when you looked at our game, I felt like you looked at it and sort of that's more us and the way we want to play.
In typical Carlton analysis fashion, I like to shed light on the lesser lights, and that's what we're going to be doing today. Enjoy. Post-game, this is what Michael Voss said.
We've had plenty of feedback off some recent performances against some extremely good sides.
This extends to last week where, as we covered in last week's analysis, Chad Warner and Isaac Heaney got let off the leash. So, looking to right the wrong, Vossy acted. And one thing that really caught my eye was Alex Cincotta's role on Touk Miller. This is what Vossy said about it.
He's probably taken a few more of the smalls that have been in the forward line. He's done some great jobs. He's just a hungry young man, you know, and he'll fight to the death no matter what. So you love having those people in your team.
Vossy also said post-game,
but there were some clear things we needed to be able to get after last week. Most of it was about our heat on the ball and probably their ability to be able to extricate it without enough pressure on the ball. The best way to be able to beat teams that build pressure is create your own.
And placing Cincotta on Touk promoted the identification and resolution of that very issue. Touk Miller copped the same treatment as Sam Walsh last week, and we know how effective that was in cancelling the opposition's plans out the middle. Though it caught us all by surprise, it was actually visible in plain sight if you looked hard enough. You could see it foreshadowed in the warm-ups. I loved it for the fact that Cincotta is built like a brick shithouse, so he can get his own ball, and because he's been clamping small forwards as a defender, those defensive attributes translate across, meaning he's perfectly capable of combating the explosive runner and endurance demon that is Touk Miller. You see the defensive attributes of previous weeks seep in here, where he places himself between contest and man. When Carlton get the ball and Cincotta is content with letting him go, it's tougher for him to catch Carlton when Carlton have the open side available. Miller was suffocated as he had 7 uncontested possessions. In a year, he's averaging 15.5, and also on top, 19.5 effective disposals. Though, what did this treatment look like beyond the stat line? With Cripps at centre bounce, Carlton require balance. Walsh is the runner that can spread, and Hollands is a smooth operator. Therefore, Cincotta would start at half forward, and it's not surprising for him to become the 7th man at stoppage, like the Blues have done before with their half forwards, but never has that half forward rolling up become a midfielder. Switching for Hollands was easy and seamless, and also successful, because if Carlton won the centre clearance, which they led 13-5 in the first 3 quarters, Miller wasn't impacting the game the one situation Cincotta wasn't playing on him. Equally, it meant Miller was running right towards Cincotta as he's tracking into the Suns' back 50, signing up for the tag even more so. The Suns had been number 1 in the comp for time in forward half and forward half intercepts for the last 6 weeks, and Touk Miller often sat back of the stoppage in this game to help this cause, but not on Cincotta's watch. Here's one example where Miller tries to shake that tag, but Cincotta's pressure is promoting a flick over the shoulder for that denial of freedom. Carlton dictating the play most of the time, sometimes through bursts at the front of the stoppage, meant that Miller was forced into defensive work, leaving Cincotta free. Namely this example where Hollands opens the play right up, relieving Walsh, Miller is drawn in, and now Cincotta is the linking piece who smartly buys time for Owies to catch up and eliminates the long bomb kick, which would optimize the effectiveness of the Suns' spare. Zac Williams kicks his first goal from this avenue. You'll see another example here with Miller needing to step up defensively. This speaks volumes about Cincotta because he's not really concerned with possession accumulation because his man has been left in the dust and he doesn't seem too interested. Here's another example where this time after I think Carroll spreads wider and Miller follows, Cincotta is acknowledged and hits up De Koning nicely. Now, around the ground stoppages, Miller didn't really know where to stand. If his back is turned to goal, he's struggling to get an effective kick away because, well, he'd have to turn round, and that's not easy when Cincotta's right here. It also prevents the straight line run right through the contest with momentum. But if he's running with the grain, which is what we just said, and he's actually facing the goal, he's running straight into the contest, and beyond that, a Carlton halfback that pushes up to the stoppage. This works to a similar effect. Now, Cincotta was more than happy to let Miller go when Carlton had the football whilst keeping a watchful eye on him. This is why turnover is so important to prevent. The minute the ball gets turned over, Miller is on his bike, and it becomes excessively tougher for Cincotta to close the gap. This is one example where Touk gets it forward rapidly for the Suns to kick one. He does the same thing about 3 minutes earlier, which has a similar bearing on field position. To cap off this segment, I find this pretty interesting from the post-game presser.
Does he seem as like he's got the potential to become like your number one negator?
Oh, he may, yeah. Look, I mean, where the opportunities happen, it's a byproduct of some personnel that are probably not there, and it's amazing when you have some challenges, you find new opportunities, and there's a couple of guys that have sort of taken their moments and been able to get jobs done.
There's moments like this which still show he has a ways to go, because you can't really afford any lapse, for that's how punishing these guys are if you give them any space. But overall, we said last week Sam Walsh was basically cut off at all 4 limbs against Sydney. Well, Touk Miller has come to understand what that treatment looks like, because he too copped the same treatment. If the backline can cover for the roles that Alex Cincotta has recently played, why not do this more often for the flexibility it permits? Still plenty of personnel to return, and as a result, Cincotta may be pushed to the outskirts as a result, but it adds another layer of consideration for selection, as if Michael Voss needed that. Now, Zac Williams. How on earth did this guy kick 4 goals? The writing was most definitely not on the wall. Most goals he's kicked in a game in his career, and we haven't had such output from a smaller forward since Jesse Motlop's 4-goal haul all the way back in July of last year against the Power. But given his differing set of attributes compared to Carlton's other smalls, the little things are what I'm paying attention to today. Williams leading up the ground was a welcomed sight. Usually we don't see much expansiveness and impact with our small forward leads a lot of the time. Here, Williams is the deepest and the widest, meaning he will be the key piece should a switch pan out. Something Carlton were more aggressive with on the weekend. Carlton a little bit down the track, get a free, and start the switch. And Walsh's run was key in promoting the switch to the opposite side. Williams is open for an eternity, but finally gets used, and that is crucial because without him, Walsh is probably sent wider, and it ends up with a player possessing a less reliable kick. Whereas here, it remains more centralized. You can maximize the outnumber with a 1-2, and then Walsh can garner stronger access to an extra 10 meters on top of the 50 he's already run. Hey, I say Akers has a less reliable kick, but Walsh has burnt a number of plays inbound for a player outnumbered in a far more inferior position. Though the Williams presence meant these options were accessible, far more so than if Akers received it wider. It's merely Walsh's fault for not capitalizing. On this example, Carlton get a set shot for Williams pushing wider again. Boydie helps this chain tremendously, given he doesn't dawdle. But Williams existing is as crucial as McGovern's existence. If Williams doesn't exist, McGovern takes the grab, and then you'll soon see that's equivalent to a slower fast break. With Williams existing, it means the kick can happen upfield, which is well measured by Williams and done ever so quickly. And then McGovern, who's tracking the line, creates added responsibility for Gold Coast. If this Sun presses too close, Fogg can draw the man and Gov will be free. With this man a non-factor. If McGovern didn't exist and there's only one man concerning the Suns, this Sun closes the gap and doesn't zone off. Williams being that option and being reactive immediately after the Boyd intercept allows McGovern to have that really profound impact further up the field, meaning Fogarty can carry the ball and buy ground so he can reach Curnow, who was infringed with. McAndrew was rinsing Charlie Curnow in the first half, so praise the Lord for the fact we had some blocking going on to make his life easier. If Harry wasn't so nonchalant with the time he took and the execution of his kick, Charlie can meet the football full pelt. Instead, it slows Charlie up. The space Williams quickly created for Charlie is closed down, and it's actually a beautiful kick if McAndrew was wearing the navy blue. The result, though, overshadows the Williams block, which we would have lauded had, say, this result occurred without Andrew present, as you can see with a better kick. On this example, Andrew is rolling back in his second ruck minutes as the spare, given his direct matchup Mackay just marked. Andrew headed goal square bound quickly diverts because the Williams run into the pocket makes him prop up and he becomes a bit preoccupied. Now, by the time the ball is kicked, Andrew doesn't have a sniff of engaging as the third man up in a manner similar to the previous bit of film. So Williams would have those nice, subtle forward line moments sprinkled in with some nice sequences in the midfield. But the success of Zac Williams wasn't limited to him kicking goals and being positively involved consistently.
You know, having Zac go forward and play the role he played, you know, we sort of almost had a dual win today. Being able to bring Cowan and play him down back, have a young developing half-backer be able to come in and play his role, and then be able to have Zac then go forward and hit the scoreboard was a pretty big win for us today.
With spots permitting, as Cincotta and Williams have been removed from the back 50 in recent weeks, Lachie Cowan arrived as the replacement and he had a cracking match. Holds a special place in my heart because he was the first topic for these analysis videos. But on a less sentimental note, it's the attack on the footy which I've really enjoyed watching. To go back to Voss's point,
the best way to be able to beat teams that build pressure is create your own.
And it's heavily intimidating when someone is beelining the ball with pace and endeavour. That someone is Lachie Cowan. This is a quality example of that surety he showed on the weekend, soaring in for a quality intercept mark. His positioning prior to the kick supports him well, zoning off to place himself between the SUNS central and the stoppage for kicks like these. Off memory, Cowan has a man he peels off here. Look, win, loss or draw, this is typical for Carlton defenders to peel off and leave their man behind as they back their own ability to win the contest, and that is what Cowan does here. Attacks it, and whilst he drops the mark, it buys time for Boyd to push back to support Cowan's tenacity, remaining stable even whilst getting tackled. That similar attribute showed in the late game. After Long drops the mark, Cowan outmuscles him and uses that reinforcement to his advantage. Huge positive in his development. He did well in situations like these, where even though he's lacking position for the kick, and given Long's just got to use his hip and his side to keep Cowan at bay, he gets a spoil in. Then there's poised moments like here, where there's 20 seconds on the clock. No stuffing around, knows he's got the boundary right there, knows a dump kick would be irresponsible, and he just braces for the tackle, lets the momentum take him over. And then this attacking prowess, hopefully, is something that transforms from occurring sparingly to occurring regularly. This is a mixture of Carlton's ball movement improvement on the weekend and a lack of SUNS discipline. Cowan is roaming free from the point of Kemp's intercept mark. Carlton spread wide, and they had the numbers wide, which would be a usual recognition for Carlton, and they would kick there. Newman was open down here, but the Cripps lead changes the complexity of the play. Cowan ensures Cripper doesn't dawdle, and you can make the most of this inward move as he executes a nice composed kick to Walsh without blasting away. Walsh has room to survey his options, given Andrew has opted to cover an option that will be about a kick or so away. Now Newman, who could have been an option which would have trapped Carlton into a down the line kick, now can be used as a ball carrier in a dangerous area to hit the top of the square, where Carlton's chances of scoring increase significantly, which we do see in the outcome of this play. Newman's impact downfield is not only felt for Holland's kicking inward and Cripper being that leading option, but through Cowan ensuring it doesn't break down and the play moves on quickly. The dash and composure allowed Newman to be reached quickly and fluently for that final kick. If there's any reason for our end-to-end transition looking more fluid, in my eyes, this is one embodiment of it. The weekend definitely showed that the Cowan experience will come with highs and lows. For example, Cowan starts well positioned, placing himself between man and the goal, but this is a disguise. It becomes a very easy bypass for Long, with Cowan not squaring up and moving laterally to halt him, nearly resulting in catastrophe. But Cowan's one-on-one wins and lack of hesitance on the weekend exemplifies a man you can trust in your back 50. Those potential shortcomings of his, well, they'll be much easier to forgive. Overall, this game had us all by surprise for the output of said players that we've mentioned today and for the new look roles that they played. Whilst it may be a byproduct of the Carlton injury toll, more doors have been opened to the potential flexibility that we didn't even know existed. And so I will definitely be on watch to see if these roles prolong. What caught you by surprise this week? Whether it was a stat or a certain player, or maybe what we've discussed today was something that caught you by surprise. Make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you would like to remain tuned for next week's Carlton analysis, and I thank you for tuning in. Have a good one, chat to you next week, and bye for now.